welcome to my channel. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today, oh, Scarlet, and my cat jumped into my like every video is a pet, I swear. I hope you're having a good day. Today's video is all about me shopping my collection for things that could dupe the Urban Decay Backtalk palette. So I first saw the Backtalk palette on Trend Mood's Instagram and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so pretty. But I have been putting myself on not like a no buy but a low buy when it comes to makeup, because I feel like my collection is really full of things that I love and I need to be using more of, as opposed to just like bringing in more palettes. Specifically, I'm thinking more of like palettes, like blush palettes, eyeshadow palettes, contour palettes. I don't really need any more of those, but I'm like anyone else. Like I get really excited over a new release or something that I see that's just like colors I love presented in a new way. The Backtalk palette really caught my eye, but I was like, what about this palette is making me want it? And it was just like the color story overall was like really interesting to me. Like it's shades like you can see what I'm wearing. Like this is actually the shade on my lips is Backtalk by Urban Decay, which they did the palette to to be used with this lip color so that you can do monochrome looks. And I already owned this lip color, so like this is a color family I love. It's sort of like warm tone mauve, mauve. I pronounce it mauve, but like I think I may be pronouncing it wrong. Mauvey, pinky plum. So not so purple that it's cool tone, not so pink that it's just pink, not red, not really orangey. So it's just this very cohesive color story that is warm tone plums basically. And I love colors like that. But I wanted to just go through what I already own and see if I could dupe it. And the first thing that I thought of was the Naked 3. So, and I'm gonna insert a photo of the Backtalk palette so you guys know what I'm talking about, because I don't own it and I currently don't plan on purchasing it, because I feel like this look that I did without the palette is a way for me to have recreated what I would do with my eye look if I owned that palette. So like, since I'm already able to achieve the look I would do with that palette, I don't feel like I need to go out and buy it. But if you don't have a lot of things in your collection and you really like this color story, I mean, there's no reason not to buy it. It's just that I have a pretty extensive collection and I think that it can be really fun to watch people shop their stash. So I thought I'd talk you guys through how I shopped my stash. So anyways, I went into the Naked 3 and was comparing it to the Backtalk palette. And this palette I think is probably the most similar, A, because it's by Urban Decay already, B, because like the layout is quite similar, though the Backtalk palette's smaller and you get blushes and highlights with that. But the shades Limit, Strange, Nooner, Factory, Mugshot, Dark Side, like these colors to me all really went with that color story that the Backtalk palette's doing. So I wanted to try and use this as one of my dupe palettes. And of course, like, I don't know if any of these are exact dupes because I don't have the palette and I haven't seen it or swatched it. But I thought that this would be a really good place to start because it's more like rosy tones. It's a warm tone palette. And it has like this, it's like a mauve, purpley, pink, dusty rose, I think would be a good way to describe it. So this was a really great option for me. And then in the Backtalk palette is like this sort of, I think they describe it as like a fuchsia shade. So I instantly thought of this Blink palette that I got in a BoxyCharm because, and it's called Electric Eyes, the Electric Eyes palette by Blink Cosmetics. This like fuchsia shade right here, and it's what I'm wearing all over my lid basically, I thought would be a really great shade to pull in and try and to dupe the palette. But this is what I used on my eyes today to get a dupeable look, or to recreate what I would do as my look if I owned that palette. And then while I was going through my collection, I pulled other things that I thought would be good in terms of blushes and other eyeshadow palettes and highlighters too. So I also pulled the Modern Renaissance the Modern Renaissance palette has this Cypress Umber, which the Backtalk palette has a dark brown in it. It's not actually all monotone, like it's not just mauves. It actually has like a kind of like a light pinky tone cream shade at the end that I think is, I didn't even think of this color right now, so hang on. The like sort of pinky shade that's in the Backtalk palette, that's like your neutral all over lid shade, I think is super similar to this shade called Studio, and this was in the discontinued Jean-Michel Basquiat palette that was released in 2017, like over the summer. But this like pink tone bone neutral is like pretty much, I think, a perfect dupe almost probably for the Backtalk's neutral shade. And then they have some browns in there and some bronzy, there's like a bronzy shade, so which made me think of the Anastasia palette. And then just like these three shades and the antique bronze and the one fresco. I think that if you, depending on like the hand that you use, like if you go really heavy handed or very light, I think you could use these shades to create a similar look to what the Backtalk palette's color story is. I don't think this is as much of a dupe for it as the combination that I wore on my eyes. I think this is like probably the best combination to get like a dupeable look. But I think that you could do a very similar version with the Modern Renaissance, which is like such a super popular palette. Chances are you probably own this palette, or you may own the Naked 3. But those are like some fairly popular palettes. So then I was like, well, what about the Jacqueline Hill palette? Like, I feel like, I mean, I know that you can't use like everyone owns this, but I feel like a ton of people own this palette. So I was expecting it to be like a warm, like this is such a warm tone palette for the most part. I was expecting this to be a great dupe. Let me get this in frame. I thought this would be a really good dupe option, but actually it's not. Like, in my opinion, a lot of the warm tones in here are, they're more bricky. They're like earthy reds and like bronzy orangey tones, which is not the color story of the palette that we're duping. But this shade right here, which I think is called Crayon Apple, yeah, Crayon Apple, is probably one of the best dupe shades. If you don't have the Electric Eyes palette, I would do Crayon Apple all over my eye and just make sure you're wetting your brush to get like a good bold pigment. So I do think like if you own this palette, it's not a super perfect dupe for the Backtalk, but like this color row right here is that kind of, it's like lighter tone pink, so kind of similar color story, but not totally, because like the Backtalk palette is definitely not a pink palette. I feel like even though some of the packaging is pink, it's like, it's definitely a mauve, like pinks and purple blended together in like a plummy kind of way. But moving along to blushes, I picked the Anastasia blush trio in Berry Adore, which these shades to me are very similar to the color story of Modern Renaissance and Backtalk. And I think you can also use these on your eyes. So these are quite dark blush shades, and for my skin tone you need to go in light-handed with them. But if you have a rich complexion, like these would work beautifully on your skin and on your eyes, and you can get that like the monochrome look, which is sort of what the Backtalk palette's doing by giving you the blushes, highlights, and eyeshadows. But you could use these three shades and make a monochrome, like one eye color all over the lid and like buff it out into the crease, and then use it on your cheeks. And I think that these colors go really well with the lip. So I thought this was an option. If you own the Viseart Theory palette in Enamored, so this is like their cool tone, but this blush shade is very it's like a purpley plum pink, and I thought that it would go really nicely with the lip color. And if you wanted to, I mean, you could use this on your eyes and then use the highlight, which has sort of like a purple kind of, it's not a purple shift or anything, but I like this would be really nice on your inner corner and then also on your highlight of your cheek. But I thought that, you know, if you own this, like you could kind of use at least the blush for this look. Then I was looking at Hervana. So if you are deep skin toned, I would say that the Anastasia is a good one for you to go with, like trying to dupe the blush shades in that palette. But Hervana, if you're lighter in skin tone, is nice because this has those pinks and purples. I think this is a discontinued blush, but if you have it in your collection, I mean, could use it. Then I pulled the blush in Cabana Boy by The Balm. And this is like a very deep plum. It's so beautiful. It even, I was trying to show in my video, it matches my shirt. I love this shade, and it has like a dip, and I don't know if you can tell, but like the pan is dipped down because I've used it so much. But it's the shade I'm wearing on my cheeks along with Rockature, which I was kind of using as like a pseudo blush bronzer because I didn't traditionally bronze today. I contoured, but I didn't use a bronzer. These are both really beautiful options that I think play true to that color story. And Rockature gives you like a rose gold sheen without being glittery. And then Cabana Boy gives you like a very healthy plum blush. What I did notice about the blushes in the Backtalk palette that I wasn't really thrilled over is that those shades all seem quite shimmery. And I'm not super huge into a shimmer blush. Like, all of my blushes don't have to be matte by any means. Like, sometimes a good satin blush can give you like a really nice healthy glow to the face, but I don't like things to be so shimmery that they almost look like a deep toned highlight. This is probably, I pulled my Bare Minerals Ready Luminizer in the shade The Awakening. So this is probably about as shimmery as I go with a blush. And I use this as a blush topper, so I will even put a little on right now, like I don't mind. But I love this shade. It gives me like a really just pop of kind of like, it just brightens the skin a little bit. And I'm wearing so much makeup right now, I don't know if you can even tell a difference, but I thought that if you own something like this from Bare Minerals, it might be a nice time to pull it. Obviously you don't have to like own all of these products. This is like very unique to my collection. But if you happen to have a Bare Minerals Luminizer, go through your collection and see if any of them are like a purpley pink tone, and then they could be nice for your blush slash maybe even highlight. I also pulled, this is Vintage by Jessica Liebeskind. It's a highlight palette I got in a BoxyCharm. They're pretty, like they're soft and they work well. The shades are Rose Quartz. I'm sorry, I'm like blinding with these mirrors, but the shades are Rose Quartz over here, and then Chocolate Diamond is right here. And I thought that Rose Quartz would be a really pretty shade, and I'm wearing it on my cheeks. I like a very bright highlight, so I also added the like lilac tone that's in the Ofra color wheel from, this is the Beverly Hills highlighter, but I always think of this as the color wheel. So I'm wearing the pinky tone highlight in here, as well as that like little purpley one to kind of blend the two together and get like a bright pinky purple highlight. And I think it worked out nicely. I pulled the NARS Unfiltered 1 palette because it has these purpley tones right here, and then this is sort of like a antiqued rosy tone, and then this is like a sort of antiqued bronzy, like it's really pretty. But I was thinking that these two, again with the blinding you guys, I'm sorry, I was thinking that the like purpley tones would be quite pretty on the cheeks, especially if you have deeper skin tone. Also, I pulled the Lilac Geode highlight by Becca. So this is definitely a good hybrid because it is like a purple, like you're gonna think this is because of the name and the packaging that's just like a purple highlight, but it's not. It is, sorry, it's right here. Hang on, let me swatch again in on camera. It is this very beautiful purple pink gold. Like, this was in a favorites video of mine a little while back, and I swear by this highlight. I love it. I love it. And I think that it would play really nicely with the, again, the color story. Yeah, so that was me going through my I went through my collection and was figuring out things that I thought could do a good job duping the Backtalk palette, which I think is $49 on Sephora. I just shopped my own stash and saved myself $49. If you shopped your stash trying to dupe this palette and you just could not find dupes, then I would suggest trying to figure out what of the shades you're looking to dupe. Like if you're specifically trying to dupe that like bright fuchsia tone, and buy a single, or try and use what you have to like get as close as you can to trying to dupe the look and see if you're happy with how that turns out. And if you're not, then I mean, buy the palette. I'm in no way trying to be like, don't buy this palette, it's no good. Because obviously I thought it was super pretty and it caught my eye and I spent all this time like trying to dupe it in my collection. But I feel like I did a good job of achieving the look that I wanted to get out of owning that palette without having to buy it, which is really nice because it's always fun to save money and like I'm really enjoying using what I own. After this video, I'm gonna go paint my nails. I even pulled a KL polish in Alyssa. I thought would be a really pretty tone to wear with the look that I've got going on. And then I was gonna paint my accent nail with this Mauvey Star in the Making by OPI. Whenever Sephora had OPI, I thought I would do these two guys together and that would be really pretty for the overall like look that I'm going for and everything. But let me know what you think of a video like this in the comments where I try and dupe a palette, because I've got a few other dupes in mind that I think would be cool to do. It was really fun getting to play and I look forward to seeing you soon in a new video.